December 10th, 2018 Single Family Design Board to order. Is there anyone in the audience wishing to address the board on any item not on today's agenda? Oops, is he saying they're not working? Is it off? Is it working? You can hear me? Okay. Seeing no one come forward, the chair will close public comment and bring it back to the board. Kathleen, let's do, before I forget it, let's do a roll call because it looks like we've got at least 3 of our members not here.
Okay, here we go. Chair Sweeney.
Here?
Let's see. Jonathan Ziegler. No, okay. Robert Richards.
Here.
Lisa James.
Here.
Jan Farrell.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Okay, thank you. And while we're there, does anyone need to step down on any item or need to leave early today? Okay, so we'll have a quorum through the completion. Okay, thank you. All right, let's go to approval of the minutes of the Single Family Design Board for our meeting of November 26, 2018. Do I have a motion for approval?
I make that motion.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, let's go through each item in case there's clarification needed. Item number 1, 2414 Santa Barbara Street. Item number 2, 218 Los Ondas. Item number 3, 982 Himeno Road. Item number 4, 3241 Lucinda Lane. Item number 5, 365 El Cielito Road. Okay. David, quick question or reminder. I believe on item number 1, 2414, an appeal has been filed?
No, not for that address. It's there's another property at 2444 where an appeal has been filed.
Okay, okay. I just wanted to clarify. Okay, thank you. All right, any other questions? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? So carried. Okay, let's go to the consent calendar for December 3rd, 2018. David.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Consent calendar for December 3rd is as follows. Item A, 1620 Eucalyptus Hill Road. This item was postponed indefinitely due to the applicant's absence. Item B, 812 De La Guerra Terrace. This project received project design approval and final approval with a comment that the NPO findings have been made. Item C, 1521 De La Vina Street. This project was continued 1 week with comments. Items A through C were reviewed by Vice Chair Miller and Member Richards.
Okay, may I have a motion for approval, please?
I make that motion.
I have a second.
I'll second it.
Any further discussion or questions? Not, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? So carried. Let's go to consent calendar for this morning, December 10th. David, please.
Okay, consent calendar for December 10th is as follows. Item A, 2530 Mesa School Lane, received final approval as submitted. Item B, 1521 De La Vina Street, received, should be project design approval and final approval with a comment. Item C, 814 San Roque Road, this received project design approval, final approval, and minor zoning exception approval with comments as noted. Item D, 20 Wooddale Lane. This project received project design approval and final approval as submitted. Item E, 1620 Eucalyptus Hill Road. This project this project was continued indefinitely with comments as noted. Item F, 3223 Vista Arroyo. This project received project design approval and was continued indefinitely to consent. Items A through F were reviewed by Vice Chair Miller and Member Richards.
Okay. May I have a motion for approval, please?
I make that motion.
I have a second.
Second.
Okay. Any further discussions or questions? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Okay, the first thing in announcements, today we have, I think, 2 items that have been pulled from today's agenda and are being postponed. Item number 4, 102 Santa Rosa Place. So I assume that may be rescheduled at some point in the future. And item number 7, 160 Conejo Road. That's also been discontinued from today's calendar. Is there anyone here in the audience? I know we received 1 or 2 correspondence on 160 Conejo Road. Is anyone from here from 160? Okay. All right. Let's see. Other announcements, David, please.
Yes, Mr. Chair. So to add to the comments about today's agenda, I want to note that item number 2, 1666 Las Canoas Road, this item was misagendized onto the full board agenda. It should have gone to the consent calendar. The applicant for this project was present at the consent calendar, and the consent reviewers did review it. So we do have plans if there are any members of the public who have public comment or wish to see the plans. We'll have to take a formal action at this meeting, however.
Okay.
So perhaps Vice Chair Miller and Member Richards can make a motion to that effect.
Okay.
And also, I just want to announce that Member Ziegler has announced that he will be absent from today's meeting.
Okay, thank you. Okay. Anything else, David? Just a couple of questions. I think you've already been issued the calendar for next year. And,
Yes.
And this is the last meeting of our board this year. So have you confirmed the consent calendar reviewers for the first consent in January?
Actually, no, I have not, but I will
Okay.
be confirming with the members.
And that will occur in, is it the
The first consent meeting of 2019 will be on the 7th.
7th of January?
Yes.
Okay. All right, yes, if you could notify 2 persons that'll be on consent, that would be most helpful. Is there any other announcements?
No other announcements.
Okay. Any announcements from the board? Mr. Miller's not here, so I don't think we have a report back on our subcommittee. So that will move into the first of the year. And I think that's it. Okay. Let's go to item number 1, 982 Camino Road. Hi.
Hi,
If you could use that microphone and introduce yourself, please, for the record.
I'm Robert Heckel.
Okay, welcome. This project is here for project design approval and is also requesting final approval. Project was last reviewed on November 12th, 2018. Mr. Richards, do we have?
Yeah, got minutes here. At the end of the last meeting, the motion was to continue 2 weeks with the following comments. 1, the board appreciates the direction of the project and supports the changes made so far. 2, return with a complete set of detailed drawings, including a floor plan. 3, provide a lighting plan, including fixture and location details. 4, provide material details. 5, provide stormwater management program requirements, compliance for the driveway. 6, provide details of the wall system connection details to the front of the house. 7, provide a detailed landscape plan showing existing and proposed changes. Action was taken by Miller, seconded by Farrell. We had 6 in support. The motion carried.
Thank you. So if you could share with us how you've addressed those or any other changes you've made, please.
Okay, so these are the floor plans, and it's a 2-level house. As it goes downhill, so on the lower backside is a area that was approved in 1984 as a fill out under the house. And we have an ADU application in for this. So that's basically the layout of the ADU. And then this is the upstairs, which is behind the driveway, which comes down the hill. And there are some modifications to master bath, some other bathrooms, and the kitchen.
Okay. Just to be clear, the ADU is where?
Is here.
It's this whole,
It's this whole thing, which is pre-existing, all of it.
okay. And so we're not allowed to make comments on the elevations of that portion of the structure. Okay.
Regardless, there are no changes.
Okay. Just so I understand where our limits are. Okay, go ahead.
Other than that, this is the deck above, which is shown on the other plans, which is over the, actually serves as a roof of the
Okay.
unit. This is the wall that we discussed. That was a block wall that was plastered. So you asked me for detail. And basically, we're building a block wall on top of existing stone-faced
Okay.
base, which is actually a veneer. Within it is concrete. So we remove the wood fence and build a block wall with the facing on top of it at the lower end. Not really sure how deep we need to go because we'd have to dig under it. But this is basically the structural.
And are those drawings on these sets?
No, it's a separate.
Okay, so did you deal with any stormwater management requirements for the driveway?
Well, I talked to Creek Division, and it wasn't Cameron, Tim? Told me it would be a tier 1 based on information that we had. But what I did do was, I have a bid to do the work, and I put an application with the building department for the driveway. So basically, as before, the idea was to simply, it's a broken up driveway, so to put another
Okay.
couple inches on top of it.
So there's some notes and details that have to go on these sheets, which aren't here yet, correct?
Just a note.
Okay. And then we talked about looking at a landscape plan.
Yes. So this is the plan that was done by the landscape architect. Essentially, the backside, we've just cleaned out dead material, as well as here along Jimeno Road and Alameda Padre Serra. So all the new planning is near the entrance, which is really, we're keeping the walkway. There's some permeable, I don't know how you describe those things, they're little concrete squares that you place, and there's space between them. And all this area on both sides of the house and in front is just a lot of gravel. So he's just added some plants in to that area.
Okay. And then we wanted to look at a lighting plan and any fixtures.
Yeah. So these were as a handout in the second submittal. But essentially, what this house has now is it has a closed soffit, plaster soffit, and there are already a number of recessed lights in the soffit, and it has a couple of, 3 floodlights. So the idea is to put those as recessed lights back in the soffit. So essentially being recessed, they're already dark sky. We would connect them to an astrological timer. So then these other fixtures that are on the face, those are one set has all the functions. It's it's dark sky, motion, LED.
This is the fixture,
Yeah.
and the color is,
It's like a really dark bronze. It's like the windows.
okay.
And the other fixture is this one, which is also dark sky LED.
Where is that one going?
That we're going to put on the more visible front entry area.
Right here.
Yeah. So the other one is kind of garage and back over here.
All right. All right, anything else to share?
Am I missing any items?
I think
offhand?
I think that answered our
Okay.
questions. Okay, all right. Nothing else, then the chair will open the project for public comment. Anyone wishing to address the project can come forward. And David, did we get any written correspondence?
No, we did not.
Okay. Seeing no one come forward, the chair will close public comment and bring it back to the board for questions. Anyone have questions? Just a couple of details. So do you have any other drawing or catalog cut for this new garage door? Is it on the drawings?
I think so. Here we go.
So that's the manufacturer, okay.
Right.
That's not on the drawings, though, in this little cut.
No. Just found the door.
Okay. All right, any other questions? If there are no other questions, let's go to comments. The applicant is here wishing for project design approval and final approval. Unfortunately, because several of his notes aren't on the drawings, I don't think we're in a position to give it final approval. But that might be something accomplished at consent calendar, because it's simply a matter of having him take his catalog cuts and his other information, light fixtures, et cetera, and getting them on the set of drawings. Other comments?
Yeah.
Yes, Lisa.
Just looking at the front entry
What sheet are you looking at?
on the landscape plan, the last sheet.
Okay.
And just thinking about a lot of plants that need really, really dry conditions on the north facing wall there.
Up here?
No, in the entry there,
Right here.
yes, against, anyway, barrel cactus and some really spiny things. You might really look at I can't really tell the scale there. So you might just consider the ultimate sizes of some of those things and having them right next to where people are walking. I see a small scale down here that says 1:1, but
Oh,
not sure
well,
that's,
So you're concerned about when they get to mature stage, they might block the walking path?
well, that and barrel cactus on a north facing area, that's, those are very expensive specimens, and I don't think that's going to thrive there. What do you think, Robert?
Yeah, I agree. I was going to make the same comment. I think you should study plants that want to be on the north side of a building. Maybe some of these plant choices aren't.
Because it's going to be in
Ideal.
shade for a good portion
Yeah.
of the year. Yeah. This is
can't
Santa
just-
Barbara North.
Yeah, water-wise, I mean, a lot of plants are water-wise, but they need to be put in the appropriate light available
okay, well,
places. So we just want your landscape to thrive. Otherwise, it looks like you've answered a lot of our requests.
yeah, I'm obviously not a landscape architect, so I'll take that up with him because I don't want to have them die either, so.
Okay, other comments? Okay, if we don't have further comments, then the chair would look for a motion.
Make a motion?
Okay,
Board would like to continue this, give this project design approval to be continued on to consent for final with the following comments. That you need to provide us notes for your stormwater management plan. And you might consider changing some of the plant materials on the north-facing entry wall. We do appreciate that you've provided the lighting, the complete floor plan, materials, detail of the block wall, and existing and proposed landscaping. And that's my proposal.
Okay, I would
And-
suggest to the maker of the motion, if you're going to give it project design approval, we have to do the
MPO
neighborhood
findings?
compatibility and the findings,
Yes.
and
then-
specifically to the neighborhood, please.
Yes, the board finds that the neighborhood preservation findings have been met with regard to consistency and appearance. This project uses quality architecture and materials, is compatible with the surrounding neighborhood, and is following good neighbor guidelines.
Okay, that's the motion on the floor. Is there a second to the motion?
I second that.
Okay. Just to be specific, I don't know that this has to go to the motion, but your light fixtures, your garage door, catalog cut, all of that needs to be on here in addition to the notes on the water management plan. And then you'll have also an opportunity to talk to your landscape designers so that when you come back for consent, you can make sure your drawings reflect plants that will survive.
Okay.
Okay? All right, any further comments to the motion on the floor? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, abstentions, so carried. This has a 10-day appeal period. Okay?
Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Let's see, one of those goes back to David. I don't know where the other ones go. Okay, we're going to then move to item number 2. And David, I'm going to look to you to kind of lead us through what we need to do on item 2. This is the one that went this morning to consent.
Yeah, so this project was reviewed at the consent calendar, and perhaps Member Richards can speak to any issues or provide any comments regarding this project. We do need to open up to public comment, if you can do that, Mr. Chair.
Okay.
And then we'll just look for a motion to.
And the motion would be for project design approval? That's what
They're
was
asking
done
for
this
project design approval, yes.
morning? That's what was done this morning, reviewed this morning?
Actually, well, the board or the consent reviewers were willing to grant project design approval and final approval with a
And
condition.
fine. Okay. Right, so I'm going to leave that action to Mr. Richards. But before I do that, is there anyone in the audience wishing to address this item, 1666 Los Canos Road? Did we get any written correspondence, David?
No, we did not.
Okay. See no one come forward, then the chair will close public comment and bring it back to the board. And I think in this case, Mr. Richards, since you all looked at it this morning, you probably know what you need to do. So a motion for project design approval and final approval is probably in order.
So, yeah, we went through the plans, and Brian had a comment regarding there's a shade structure that is attached to the building that at one of the previous meetings, I believe you had made some recommendations to adjust the sizing of some of the members on it. And so Brian made the suggestion that the trellis should be all metal instead of parts of it were called out as
Right.
metal and part was called out as wood. So I agreed with that. It seemed like a logical thing to do. So we suggested to give the project PDA and final approval with the conditions of revising the trellis to be metal and painted to look like wood.
Okay. So if we give it project design approval, then you need to make as part of your motion the compatibility and appearance criteria for the neighborhood and define the neighborhood.
Okay, so I move to give the project design approval and final approval with the following comments from the NPO, that the project is consistent with the neighborhood. Let's see. Not sure how to exactly define the neighborhood here with this one, but it's compatible in size, bulk, and scale. It had quality of architecture and materials. There was no impact to any trees or landscape. They were maintaining the existing landscape. They had followed good neighbor guidelines, and the project isn't obscuring any public views. So that's my motion.
Okay, along with the comment. Okay, is there a second to that motion?
Second.
Okay, is there further discussion to the motion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? So carried. Okay. That completes action on item number 2. We're not scheduled to go to item number 3, 2018 Foothill Road until 4:15, which means the board needs to adjourn until 4 o'clock. That's the soonest we can start that item.
Yeah, this is the new one.
Assume that's working. Okay. The chair is going to bring back to order the December 10th, 2018 Single Family Design Board.
Yeah, but
We're on item number 3, 415, at 415 for 2018 Foothill Road. This is here for project design approval. The project was last reviewed on September 4th, 2018. If you could introduce yourself for the record, please.
Hi, my name is Patricio Nava. I'm the designer for the Anderson family on this project.
Welcome. Let's see, Mr. Richards, could you read the actions of our last review on the 4th of September, please?
Sure. At the end of the last meeting, the motion was to continue indefinitely to the full board with the following comments. 1, the board finds the proposed additions are in keeping with the size of the lot. 2, the board finds a tile roof over the new addition supportable. 3, provide window and door details similar to the original doors if possible. 4, provide a color board and lighting details for the house. Action was taken by Farrell, seconded by James. We had 5 in support. Motisha and myself, Richards, were absent. The motion carried.
Okay, thank you. So if you could share with us how you addressed those comments and any additional information that may have changed.
Okay, before let me let you know why I'm a little bit late. I don't know if you can explain that I wasn't aware of my meeting today, and it caught me out of guard. So mainly site plan stays the same. Sorry. One of the comments on the last meeting was to, can I use these windows on the existing kind? Trying to use one of the windows on the new addition, which I did on this. I changed this gate, this door from here to here, and so I create the same style courtyard, which I can show you here. It's the new.
So we're looking at a model.
Yeah.
Okay.
And another comment was, if you recall, the columns here on my former project, I took out some, and now I'm keeping the same character.
Can we see those on the elevation?
Yeah.
Yes. Okay. So that's this?
Yeah, that's this. And another comment was on my vent. Now I'm going to the kind of all clay vents, which go with the architecture.
Okay.
Another comment I recall was on the chimney
Chimney cap?
cap.
Correct.
For this is the existing as it is. I just don't touch it.
Okay.
And another comment is the lights.
Okay.
Can I change the light? Due to my unaware timing for my meeting today, I wasn't able to bring my lighting style, so I have my phone here.
Okay.
And the color, another question is the color. And my color scheme is going to be to match existing.
Okay.
And literally, I don't have any new color board. Just to match existing is kind of the color of the existing house is named extra white.
Okay.
That's and pretty much is all the
Okay.
changes.
All right. Anything else?
That's it.
Okay. Okay. Is there,
And have the details.
yeah, and
Pretty-
details are over here.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
This is the details for the rake, for the eave, some of the railing and
Okay.
windows and doors.
Okay. Okay. With that, then is there anyone in the audience wishing to address the project? David, did we get any written correspondence?
No, we did not.
Wanna take a look?
Seeing no one come forward, the chair will close public comment and bring it back to the board for questions. Who has questions?
I see your photo.
Yeah. Here's that. Pass that down to you.
This one?
Thanks.
Anyone else?
Are we on questions?
Yes.
Okay,
Go ahead.
what about like the trim colors of your windows and doors?
As we can see on the pictures, through the time there's a different windows.
And we need to speak into the microphone and
we,
speak this
we,
way.
we,
Thank you.
if we take a look on the pictures, let's see, we see three different windows, but the color we are looking to match is this one, the kind of
So the
light
windows,
gray.
that's a turquoise blue?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah,
What we might call it Santa Barbara blue.
yeah, which is the one you see on the rendering.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Anything else? Any other questions? Okay, if not, let's go to comments. The applicant's requesting project design approval.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Comments?
Looks like the project is supportable,
Okay.
that you've done what we've asked, and you just need to bring back the lighting cut sheet and color board.
Do those have to be included on their plans? when
For
they-
final.
For final?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah,
So,
'cause-
so what I'm going to suggest is, if you choose to give it project design approval today, then we can give the applicant a quick list of things that'll need to show on the final documents. And it may be such that if we're ready, we could send this to consent for final. But I'll leave that up to whoever makes a motion. So the window that, I did have a question.
Yep.
That I just now realized. You said you had a window to that
Yes.
side. Where does that show? That's this one?
And it does, let me go up to the floor plan. It doesn't show here, but it shows on, because it's on the rendering.
Okay, but no, it doesn't got to show on the drawing.
Oh, yeah, I need to make a section.
Okay, so you
Just
haven't
to
done
show
that
it,
yet. Okay.
because it's on the floor plan
Okay,
only.
and what, so if we use the photograph, it's that window right there?
Exactly, yeah. Which is right here.
Okay. All right, other comments or questions?
I think it's a nice looking project myself, so I'm in support of it.
This is the
Got a neat
colors
looking home.
Okay.
and for the light fixture.
Yeah.
Nice.
Like I
Okay.
said,
That's great. You just
I-
need to
I
have
need
it on
you
the
to-
plan.
Need you to stay seated and talking into the microphone. This is all recorded and you're on
Oh, thank
live
you.
television. Okay,
Sorry.
Sorry. Okay. Any other comments? I think my comments are that you've done what we've asked you to do. I think everything looks good. I think it's unfortunate that we weren't able to find a way to reintroduce this style of window somewhere, but because this arrangement's a little awkward, but it's really just an architectural decision. From an approval standpoint, it doesn't present problems to me. The proportions of these vents versus that vents, these might be a little smaller.
Oh, yeah.
Just because
Yeah,
The
this,
proportions around there look good here, but they don't look that great here, so you might think about that.
Yeah, I'll take care of that.
But short of that, I think we're where we need to be. Okay, so any other comments? If not, then the chair would look for a motion. The applicant seeking project design approval.
I'd like to make a motion to give this project design approval with the following comments. I think this can come back to consent. And when you come back for consent, you need to make sure that the lighting cut sheet is on your plans, that the door and window details are included in the plans also. I think the front columns that you've added are nice, and they're consistent with the architectural style. I think the consistency and appearance of your project is characteristic of our city, and it's compatible to the neighborhood in size, bulk, and scale. I think the quality of architecture is also absolutely acceptable.
And I would suggest to the maker of the motion, as we read neighborhood definition compatibility, that this is in context of the area of this section of Foothill Road as it leaves off of Mountain Drive, just to define the neighborhood. Is that acceptable?
That's acceptable,
Okay.
yeah.
All right, do I have a second to that motion?
Second.
Okay. Do we have further discussion to the motion? Okay. Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? So carried. This has a 10-day appeal period. Basically, the motion allows you to complete your set of drawings for completion. So that means all your details, everything ready to go to the building department comes back to consent calendar, and you can arrange the timing with David, the counter.
Okay.
And you do need a color board. So
Yeah,
the
definitely.
color board with all that
Yep.
colors on it, the trim, so forth and so on. That all needs to come to that final meeting. Okay?
Yep.
All right, thank you. Okay. So are these yours or these the file?
Just fire.
This is file?
Yeah, I can.
Okay, right, thank you. Okay,
Thank you.
thank you. Now where are we?
When we get,
Oh, now we have to, now we're on another hiatus, okay? So we can reconvene at 5:05? 5:05. So the board will now take another break and reconvene at 5:05. Okay. Chair will bring back to order the Monday, December 10th, 2018 Single Family Design Board. We're on item number 5, 1724 La Coronilla Drive. If you could introduce yourself for the record, please.
Sure.
There you go.
Thank you. My name is Brett Ettinger with Ferguson Ettinger Architects.
And I'm Matt Shara, also with Ferguson Ettinger Architects.
Okay, welcome. This is a new item, so I'm going to read into the record the project description. This is a proposal for a 292 square foot second floor addition and a 129 square foot roof deck on, existing 1,763 square foot single residential unit with an attached 465 square foot two-car garage. Proposal includes new windows, a replacement of sliding doors on the north elevation, and the remodel of an existing bedroom. The proposed total of 2,520 square feet, a development on an 8,410 square foot lot in the Hillside Design District, is 77% of the maximum allowed floor to lot area ratio. This project has no final appeal decision today and will require an environmental assessment. So if you could share with us what your project's about.
Sure. Happy to. Thank you. We're here today to present our proposal for a modestly sized second floor addition to an existing one-story single-family residence at 1724 La Coronilla Drive. What I'd like to do is sort of acquaint you with the immediate context, the neighborhood context, with a variety of photos and a context map that highlights in gray some of the, there's at least 14 within the stone's throw, 14 existing two-story homes. I can pass these around for you if you'd like, and you can use the map to sort of get a sense of where these houses are. They offer a variety of architectural vocabularies, everything from quasi-Spanish colonial to post and beam to sort of a modern ranch-style home. So these are just to sort of set the mood for neighborhood context. Again, many homes on this street itself and on the adjacent cross streets. I'm getting towards the end here. Thanks for bearing with me. In any event, our proposal here today is to add a modestly sized second floor addition to this existing 3-bedroom, 2-bath home. And what we've endeavored to do, I'll turn to the floor plan here in just a second. That'll do it for the photos, thank you. What we've endeavored to do with the proposed addition is be sensitive to both the immediate neighbors to the west and east, as well as the neighbor directly across the street to the south, and in the bigger picture be sensitive to the neighborhood context in terms of the general massing and our architectural vocabulary. So in doing that, do you have the rendering from the street, the proposed rendering? Yeah. In doing that, what we've done for sake of sensitivity is we've done several things. Number one, we've kept the addition small or modest. It's about 292 in the net square footage range and about 354 in gross square footage. And then number two, we've placed the addition in the back of the house, about 4 to 5 feet past the existing east-west high ridge line. And number three, we've positioned the addition in the center of the house so that the massing is in the center of the lot and not at the edges or the side yards out of sensitivity to each of the neighbors. We've also endeavored to keep the profile as low as possible with 8-foot plate up above, as well as a flat roof. We've opted for the flat roof for 2 reasons. Number one, we can keep the profile lower by not using the existing gable roof profile up there. And then number two, we can get some larger overhangs, in this case 4 feet to the south, 4 feet to the west, and we believe that that will really help during the daytime with a heavy shadow line and further articulate the project. In addition to that, the material palette for the existing house, this photo of the house in the renderings, a little deceiving because that brown plaster is in shadow. You have those, here we go. Where they went, the existing house, yeah. Thank you. Going to be in this part.
Oh, it's in there.
There we go. That's actually a better indication of the color of the house right now. But as you can see, what we've tried to do with the addition is not use such brightly contrasting materials and colors, but starting with the darker earth tone plaster, sort of key off that and use that on all of the proposed walls upstairs. And then in addition to that, to further recede the project, use a dark bronze anodized window frame throughout. And as a result of that, to integrate the entire project, we are proposing to paint the existing window frames to match, as well as paint the existing trims and the fascia board so that the whole project feels like it may have been done at one time. I guess lastly, in terms of nighttime appearance, what we're proposing, we have the material board. That's pretty good. That's the real one there. Thanks, Mike. is a few things in terms of nighttime. One, we're not going to be proposing any drywall in the ceiling since it may be visible from down on the street at night and it might reflect a little bit too much. What we're proposing instead for the entire ceiling, we have the little reflected ceiling plan, upper floor, is a medium-toned wood panel to warm things up a bit. Thank you. Great. And essentially no ceiling lighting. I don't believe in putting recessed cans and lights on the second floor, so we're not going to have any ceiling lighting in there, just a fan. There'll be one wall sconce and a surface-mounted light at the top of the stairs that won't be visible. Lastly, just sort of taking the extra step, is that we'll be using upstairs at least a bronze-tinted glazing, so that at night, I think it really will be quite diffuse, especially with the warm-toned ceiling and the no ceiling cans. I believe that's about it for the presentation. We have some other things here, like proposed lighting fixtures, et cetera, if you'd like to see those. But our goal was to really stay modest, keep things in the back, keep things in the center, and keep things low, and use materials that recede. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Did it for the moment? Okay. All right, let's go to public comment. Anyone in the audience wishing to address this project? David, did we get any written correspondence?
No, I have not.
Seeing no one come forward and no written correspondence, the chair will close public comment and bring it back to the board for questions. Who has questions? Lisa.
Yes, thank you. I am looking at A2.1 and wondering if these, the roof plan and the upper floor plan both have their own individual decks, and if you could talk about those.
Pardon me, I didn't hear the question.
I'm sorry. If both the roof plan and the upper floor plan each have new decks?
No. The deck, which is enclosed by a 3-foot-high parapet wall, only exists at the second floor level, right off of the proposed bedroom. What you're seeing in the roof plan is just the deck beyond.
Deck
Just for
below, got it.
context.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you for clarifying that.
I forgot to mention that the deck is sunken into that existing roof about 3 feet.
Do you have, while we're there, do you have a section or an elevation to show that?
Yes. And we also have cross-section. Okay, these two cross-sections really don't show the deck, but this one,
Oh, we don't have it.
Okay, so from the street, we're going to see a bit of, is that stuck up?
yes.
So that shows up.
You really don't see it.
Yeah, you don't see it there, but I want to see it on
Yeah.
okay, so that's what we're seeing right here.
Yes.
So to get your 42 inches, this is an open pipe rail?
We're proposing just a simple, haven't gotten there yet, but either a metal cap that's 2 inches thick that provides for the 4-inch maximum clearance. So just a
Okay,
single
so
band.
that's
just-
open in between? That's I'm
Yes.
reading it.
Yeah,
Okay.
just for a little articulation there.
All right. Other questions?
What is the material of the roof, or is that changing, or?
No, it's not. That existing roof is a heavy cement shake. It shows up here for you. You can see it. It's photos. It's fairly 10 years old.
And what are you thinking on the chimney cap? What, is it a screen or something?
Yeah, we'd like to hide the spark arresters. We'll be looking at painting the spark arrestor and then also putting in a welded wire mesh,
Screen.
probably a painted black screen to go along with the other dark elements.
And then, under code, are you required to have a light off the set of doors that's coming onto this deck?
Well, What we're proposing is just some recessed low wall lighting on the
You
deck
think that'll-
itself.
that'll
I'm
pass
hoping that
muster?
does because
Okay.
we don't want to put lights out there.
And no lights in the soffit?
No lights in the soffit.
And or the ceiling?
Correct.
And you don't have gutters on the front of the house on the first level, but I noticed there's a downspout gutter here.
Yes.
That's just for the flat roof?
That's just for the contained parapeted flat roof. And then we have a gutter, I believe, in the back that has a downspout, so you
Okay.
don't see that from the front.
And that's anticipated to paint out to match the adjoining wall?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, that's called out, I believe.
And the roof material on the top is going to be what, on the top of this roof? You know
On the
that?
top of the flat roof,
Yeah,
right here,
yeah.
the PVC membrane roof.
Do we
I
have
don't think it'll be visible, but it will.
Do we have a color yet? No?
Not white and not black, so in between,
Okay.
probably a medium gray.
And that's the whole project for our review. There's some other stuff going in the inside, but other than that,
Yes.
and the existing trash enclosure may have already been blessed by the city because of this other work?
Yeah, this went through a thorough interior remodel about 8 or 9 years ago, I
Okay, so
believe.
that may have been
And
all
there were
taken
some
care of.
modifications for some existing side yard and front yard
Stuff,
encroachments.
Okay. So David, this is still going through staff review? Is that where we're at this point?
Yes, however, if the board finds that the project is supportable for project design approval, you can make those comments to that effect.
Okay. Okay. All right. Okay, other comments? I guess I had one additional question. The neighbor across the street, I was out there this morning, just double checking the site.
Yes.
I know the street pretty well because we've looked at several houses, in fact, one just 3 or 4 houses down. Has these folks talked with the neighbor directly across the street?
They reached out to both east, west, and across the street.
Okay.
And nobody,
Nobody responded?
although West was scheduled to come into my office on Wednesday, because I offered to show him drawings, and he canceled to a subsequent proposed meeting on Friday at 10:30, and he canceled that too, and said he was going to show up today.
Okay, all right. Okay, so you've been able to reach out?
Yes.
All right, other comments? If we have no other comments, the chair would suggest that we can do one of a couple of things. Since it's still going through staff review, we could make positive comments, if we so wished, with a stipulation that the project could return to the full board, or it could return with positive comments to consent calendar for formulation of project design approval. Or we could ask the applicant to return with comments, et cetera, like we usually do. But those are 3 or 4 options that we can exercise. Anyone have comments? If not, then the chair would entertain a motion.
Make a motion.
Okay?
I move that we continue the project with positive comments on to, we can't give it PDA?
No, we can't give it PDA. We can, it either can come back here for PDA, or it can go to consent calendar.
I'd like to continue it to consent with the following comments. That we appreciate the thoroughness of the applicant's presentation, and that the project is modest and in keeping with the size, bulk, and scale of homes in the neighborhood. That we appreciate the low plate height, 8-foot plate height on the top floor, and the sensitivity in coloring with the lack of recessed lighting on the second floor and the dark brown ceiling. The PVC membrane roof we find acceptable, but would like you to return with the color board to consent, as well as the rest of your detailed drawings.
Nope, can't do that yet.
Yeah.
Okay.
My
I would
motion.
only, the only other suggestion, maker of the motion, is that the proposed size of the second floor deck is acceptable and also falls within our single-family design guidelines by being more than 15 feet away from the westerly property line.
Have that language, please.
Okay. Is there a second to that motion?
I'll second it.
Okay. Is there further discussion to the motion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions, so carried. Okay, so you can go to consent
Thank you
for the
very
next
much.
piece.
Really appreciate
Okay.
your time.
Okay, thank you. All right, I don't know, some of this goes to David and some of it goes, I guess, back to you.
Want me to take the context back and just leave the immediate?
You can ask David what he needs. So we're going to adjourn for a little over 15 minutes, and we'll be back here at 5:40. Okay, the chair is going to call back to order the Monday, December 10th, 2018 Single Family Design Board. We're on item number 6, 1049 Alameda Padres Serra. If you could introduce yourself for the record, please.
Kirk Gerdine, architect.
Welcome. Because this is a new project, I'm going to read into the record the project description as presented. This is a proposal for a 1,733 square foot of additions to an existing one-story, 1,728 square foot single residential unit with a 525 square foot detached two-car garage. The project includes new decks and patio areas, new landscaping, a lap pool, and site retaining walls. The proposed total of 3,986 square feet of development on a 22,962 square foot lot in the Hillside Design District is 85% of the guideline maximum floor to lot area ratio. This is here. Will be no final appeal decision made today at this hearing. David, before I proceed further, is there any explanation needed?
Staff just needs to complete an environmental assessment on
Okay, so that's still being worked on.
the
Okay.
project, yes.
Thank you.
And similar to the last project, if the board feels it's appropriate, they can make comments with respect to project design approval.
Okay. Right, thank you. Okay, so Mr. Gerdine, could you share with us what your project's about, please?
Yes. Perhaps most of you are familiar, thank you,
Yeah.
with the location. It's on APS on the south side, just east of Garcia. And maybe we should look at the photos first, just so you get an idea about the site more clearly, what's there now, because the existing house really and garage dictate a lot of the design. So there's a aerial map in the top right corner, which also shows where the photos are. And along the street on the north side of APS, there's a series of 2- and 3-story homes, which are shown along the top. And our immediate neighbor to the west is also at the top left corner of that sheet. And then the You'll notice also there's directly across from the site, there's a large, probably 10, I haven't measured it, it's 10 or 12 foot high median wall that divides the eastbound and the westbound sides of APS. And it's also significant to note that neither from the driveway across the street looking towards the site, nor from the median looking towards the site, can you see the existing house, nor will you be able to see the proposed work, because there's a probably 15-foot high hedge right at the property line along APS. And let's see, there's a good view of that. Yeah, well, you can sort of see it here, just underneath the aerial photo, where you see both the houses on the north side of APS, the median wall, the APS proper on asphalt. Then the drop, there's a drop from APS to the site that varies from 0 at the driveway to about 7 feet once you get down to the garage in this location. So this wall right here adjacent to the garage is a 6-foot wall. The garage comes up above it, but then the street level is even above that. Then there's a variety of photos that take you through the site. This is probably the most revealing in terms of what is there now, the existing house and garage. The site is quite steep. I think it's over a 40% average slope. And looking from let's see, where is it now? The southeast corner of the site down towards the backyard area of the site is this long panoramic shot. It's a series of 3 shots. So you kind of get an idea what the backyard looks like. But then there's also this whole section of the site, which is an oak grove, which is also quite steep, which we're not touching at all. We're not disturbing any oaks, and there's no plans for any development there. But there's also significantly a drainage course that picks up water off of APS and a pipe that comes under APS that drains along the easterly side, then passes over into our neighbor's yard to the east and actually goes under their house, comes out under their driveway, and empties down onto Farella Road down below. There's also part of the existing condition of the site is an easement area at the southeast corner that was granted. It's a mutual easement that, as far as I understand it anyway at this point, we're still investigating it, that both the owner of 1049 and the neighbors have the opportunity to use that space for parking. But in terms of city, what's allowed by the city, and I have drawings from the approval for the retaining wall that was built, legally speaking, the parking space does belong to 1049, at least in terms of what the city has agreed to and what's permitted. You get a really good idea of how steep the site is with these photos that are taken from down below. And we are doing, so bottom left corner. You can see I've labeled here where 1049 occurs. So this white building appears in the distance. That's the existing house for this site. And here's Farella Road down here. So there's lots of retaining and very steep grades up to houses on both sides. This is the house just below our site, which was built in the last year and approved by this board.
Okay, need to be able to continue to speak in the microphone.
Thank you. And this is another shot of the house immediately below us, and the house immediately to the east. And here you get a little bit of that parking area that I was referring to, which is also a permeable paved area. We added a few additional photos with this supplemental sheet because part of the proposal is to add a site wall at the street. Currently, as I mentioned, there's a drop from APS down to the site that varies from 3 to 7 feet, which is unprotected other than this hedge that's here, and some intermittent boulders. So we're wanting to create a safer pedestrian protection there, as well as in case any cars should happen to veer off the road and come onto the site, provide more protection. So this is a photo sim of what that would look like. It's 42 inches high, would be stone to match what's happening across the street on APS, or at the median, rather. Bottom middle of the page, the adjacent property owner at 1055 was kind enough to let us take photos from their site so that we could evaluate the visual impact to them for the additions, so that you can see how, at least from their viewpoint, the visual impact is minimal. And there's a couple of other. This is also our neighbor at 1055 from our site, looking up towards them. They're roughly 2 stories above us, and this is also part of their residence right here. You get a corner of it. We are.
Excuse me, sir. This is a public meeting. I'm going to ask you to sit in the seats, please. Okay, this is being televised. You'll have an opportunity to ask questions. You get 2 minutes to address the board.
Gotcha.
Okay, so if you could sit back down in the audience, I'd appreciate it. Thank you. Okay, continue, please.
Thanks. So we have current condition. The existing garage is in the side yard and the front yard setback. Here's our 30-foot front yard setback, 10-foot side yard. And we're relieving 2 of the walls of the garage and expanding to the south and to the east in order to meet the minimum interior dimension for garage. And we're also replacing the roof, of course, which, according to current ordinance, we can do all without a modification. And then you can see on the site plan the white area is the existing house with a dashed outline, and so you get an idea of where the additions are occurring. There's, as you probably noticed from the photographs, the house appears as a 2-story house. In fact, there's a 13-foot understory under the existing 1-story house, and so we're utilizing that space. This dashed line indicates where a new retaining wall is being built underneath the house and where we're creating a lower floor area. And that's predominantly where the major portion of our new floor area is occurring, is at the lower floor area. Then there's also decks, of course, at the upper level and the lower level, the predominant one being facing south. And it has a roof, which you'll see from the elevations, although it's a relatively flat roof and at a low pitch. And then there's in addition to the off floor plan patios, there's a lower patio area where the lap pool occurs. It's down, I believe it's 30 inches from the bottom floor level. And then as I mentioned, there's quite a steep drop on the lower part of the site especially. So we're also proposing a series of retaining walls. There's, in plan, the There's an existing wall, which you saw in the photographs, which on this parcel is exposed or board formed concrete. And then it turns in, as it enters onto our side, it turns into a wall that was built by this neighbor that's actually sandstone wall, and drops to this point to about 4 feet and runs up along their driveway in this way. And we're proposing to cut into that wall in order to create an access from the lower side onto grade. Currently, there is none. And then, so this existing wall gets up to about, I think it's almost 9 feet at this corner, and it does have a railing on it currently, which you probably saw in the photos as well. So the first series, there's a set of 3 walls. The first 2 are 3.5 foot tall and would be a kind of geo wall, at least the way it's proposed, so that it would be eventually be covered with planting, and would create planting shelves, level planting shelves for the lower part of the site. And then there's a retaining wall proper that would be plaster, and the first one is 7.5 feet high, which you'll see on the sections. Maybe I'll just go to that because it's clearly shown there. So here you get an idea of that progression. This is sheet A2 I'm looking at right now. Existing driveway of our neighbor shown at the bottom, and existing wall, and then the 2 series of 3.5 foot high walls, the 7.5 foot high wall, which creates a flat, usable outdoor area for my client, and then another 7.5 foot high wall, which creates the surface for the pool area. But these walls are shown at their worst condition because they are curving. In fact, all of these walls eventually die into grade where they terminate. So they're progressively getting smaller as they go to their ends, which is shown on the elevations. Wrong direction. So again, we took the section through the worst spot, both to the east and to the west, or rather, east and west. They either terminate into the building or they die into grade as the grade goes up the hill. Now, although it's not, doesn't fall under the category of needing design review, we are proposing also an accessory dwelling unit. But because it is intimately tied in with the retaining walls, the grading, the stairway that we're proposing, I'll just review it briefly. But basically, it is it's a structure that's buried on 3 sides, and you can see that how that works in the elevations. Yeah, most clearly on the east elevation, you can see how at the upper end actually we're having to step down from an existing pathway that's there now, and you'll see there's some steps shown in plan onto the roof of the ADU, and how how much of it is below grade. And then you can also see that the stairway is basically on grade. So this dark line shown on the east elevation that runs alongside the ADU and picks up and turns into the stairway, it shows how basically that stairway is just following along on grade. The other significant addition to the residence is the entryway, which you can see on the north elevation. And we're incorporating some stonework on the building, as you can see. And what else should I mention? Maybe I'll just wait for questions. I'll leave it at that.
Okay. Is that your presentation?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Okay, before we go to questions and comments from the board, the chair will open it for public comment. We have 2 speaker slips. David, did we get any written correspondence?
I have not received any written
Okay, thank you.
correspondence.
Then we'll have the 2 speakers come up. No, you first, and after 25 years, you would think I would know how to say your name, but I flunked that test.
You've forgotten how to speak.
Just full disclosure, our children went to junior high and high school together. Okay.
Good evening, members of the SFDB. My name is Vijaya Jamala Madaka, and I can see why Chair Sweeney cannot remember that. My husband and I live at 1304 Farello Road, which is immediately downhill southeast. So, I don't know.
You're right here.
There, thank you. Yeah, so we've lived there for over 42 years. The owners and the architect have been very informative, and my husband and I are generally supportive of this project. We have a couple of concerns. One is about the easement that Mr. Gradine mentioned. We have an easement on their property at close to where you can see those stairs. And the other one is about drainage issues that relate to our property. So the first one, we use a small parking lot for which we have a legal and, of course, prescriptive easement because we've been using it for 6 years now. We paid the previous owners for the easement and fully paid for the construction of the parking lot and for the city permit in 2012. The applicant plans to build steps from this parking lot so that they can use it too. But to access this lot, they have to use our driveway, which we already share with our neighbors, the Nolops. That's Mr. Nolop over there, to the west at 1314, which is the new house. We'd like the applicant to work with us and the Nolops on a mutually satisfactory agreement on the use, maintenance, and other costs of this lot and driveway before you approve this project. Since you have to make neighborhood preservation ordinance findings, I guess you have to make findings that it complies with good neighbor guidelines. I am suggesting that the easement agreement is part of those, the good neighbor agreement. So we're also concerned about the drainage issues that may affect our property. The storm drain that flows under our house, which Mr. Gradine mentioned, it often overflows during very heavy rainfall events. So it may not be able to accommodate additional flows from 1049 APS. So those are our concerns. Thank you.
Thank you. And the next speaker is Neil Nola. Thank you. If you could name for the record, please.
Yeah, my name is Neil Nolop.
And speak into the microphone. This is on television and it gets recorded.
Okay,
Thank you.
my name is Neil Nolop. I'm the owner of the 1314 Farello, which is to the southwest of the property. My wife and I are supportive as well to the general idea of what you're planning to do. The 2 concerns that we have are, one is the lap pool. The volume of water of that lap pool, should it leak or for whatever reason come down, I don't know why, earthquake or whatever, the amount of water coming down to our property, not sure what the damage it would cause, but we're concerned about that. So obviously making sure that the pool is well designed and to tolerate earthquakes or whatever other things that could occur. And the second thing is our privacy is a bit, I don't know how that's addressed in this sort of forum, but our privacy of our patio is affected by the fact that people in the lower levels of the house would be looking straight down upon us, and not sure what to do to prevent that unless the retaining walls are high enough to prevent that from happening. But it is taking away our privacy.
Okay. All right. You had one other thing that you wanted to say.
No, when I was looking at the drawing, just trying to see trying to get a perspective of what the existing house was or is compared to the new house. But I subsequently saw the drawings. That's fine.
All right. Thank you. Okay. Anyone else in the audience wishing to speak to this project? If not, then the chair will close public comment and bring it back to the board for questions and comments. Who has questions?
I have a question.
Go ahead.
Do you have a general idea how much fill or cut is required to maybe?
Yes, we did an approximate calculation. It's on the first sheet at the bottom right there.
Let's see, 300 cubic yards of cut, 25 cubic yards of fill, for a total of 300.
275.
And then that's within the footprint and outside the footprint, 35 cubic yards of cut, 355 cubic yards of fill, for a total of 385. And you're importing 70 cubic yards of import. So that's about 6-7 truckloads. Okay.
So the attempt was to get as close as we could to balancing on site. So there is considerable grading, most of it under the house. But yeah.
Other questions?
Do you know how you might be addressing stormwater management, or is it too early to go there?
Well, we've had some preliminary discussions with the civil engineer about it, and we are Tier 3. We will be required, but if we, for example, if we make the driveway and most of the exterior hard surface is permeable, it's very likely we would not need to retain the water on site, but just to percolate it on site. And we have areas for doing that, given the retaining walls that we're putting in. So that's the general plan.
Okay, other questions? I have a series of questions. Let's see, you referred to the hedge up on APS.
Mm-hmm.
Is that hedge on the property or is that in the public right-of-way? I think it's those axes there.
Yeah, that's a good question. Looks to me like it's all, except maybe a little tiny bit right here, that we're all on the property. It's those axes,
So that's
yeah.
in your property?
Yeah.
So David, if he's saying that that hedge, or the configuration of hedges, they may be trees, I don't know, are taller than 15 feet, is he subject to the hedge ordinance?
Yes, it would be subject to hedge ordinance within the first 10 feet of the front property line. It would not be able to exceed 8 feet in height unless a minor zoning exception was requested for
Which this board
additional
does, correct?
Yes, that is under the purview of this board to grant a minor zoning exception.
And so,
is that measured from the street level or from the property level?
For the hedge, that would be from the property
this hedge
level.
drops down behind the drop-off
It's like
from the
7
street. That's
feet
why I'm asking the question.
down.
That's
The
why I'm
hedge might
asking
be
the question.
15 feet from inside, but it's really only like
Which is-
7 or 8 from the street.
Right, exactly.
On several occasions, as this ordinance was trying to go through the process, I kept trying to get people to understand that the Riviera presents all kinds of issues. So what you have is this is APS, and this wall drops down, or right now it drops without this wall.
Well, you can see it on the, I've got a section that shows it
And the
really
trees are
clearly.
like that.
Yeah, exactly.
And so that's what we need to understand. Does he need to get a zoning exception, et cetera? Or is it,
So there-
that would be part of your review?
Yes, the applicant did put in a request for evaluating the height of a wall to be considered at the street level. So I will check in with our zoning staff on whether or not that hedge would also fall into that same criteria.
And then my other question is, it appears to be that a portion of this new retaining wall, that's the stone wall you showed, that's this right here, right?
Yeah, it's not retaining.
It's not retaining, it's just a guardrail.
Yeah.
Okay, and so part of it appears to be proposed in the public right-of-way, and part of it is on your property
Correct.
within 10 feet. And as long as it's below 42 inches, you're okay. Have you talked to Public Works about this piece?
Yes.
Okay.
They said that it's quite feasible with a encroachment permit that we could be able to do.
And do they review the structure of that, or is that all under the building department? You know?
I would imagine they would review the structural engineering as well, but I don't know.
And then we talked about this easement that kind of goes back and forth between these two properties. It doesn't show on this plan. Do you?
It does, actually.
Where did I miss it?
Well, there's two, actually. So the first one goes like this and came all the way down to here and did this little flag at once. So this was the original easement, which allowed our neighbors to access their driveway across my client's property.
Okay, so that's the driveway easement.
Yeah.
What about the drainage easement?
There's no drainage easement.
Well, you have a pipe that's discharging water somewhere.
Comes right here.
So there's
no
not an
easement,
easement?
though. No.
So the water just runs down here and then daylights, or keeps going this way?
It's daylight all through here, and then somewhere around here, it goes underneath their deck, and then it comes out
All
from
right,
there.
and it's my understanding that the way this works is that water's being taken from, on the other side of APS, under APS, down, and because this is surface, it does take whatever contributory water that's coming off of here into that
Right.
drainage course.
Right.
But any work that you're doing over here, under the rules, you have to retain all that water on site, correct?
Right, correct.
Okay, so from about right here where this grade starts to change, as the contours start to change, this side is going to be evaluated under Tier 3.
Yeah, although what's unclear as yet, and we have to evaluate it, is there are currently drain lines that do take site water into this
here.
drainage course. And
That's got to be evaluated.
it has to be evaluated because it's historically been the case that this site has drained in that direction.
In this
So,
direction.
yeah, if we can, I would assume that we'd be required to reduce whatever that amount is. We would be required to reduce it and maybe eliminate it if we can, to whatever
Push it
extent we
all to
can.
here.
Yeah.
Okay.
But you're right. There's a portion of the site which we're not touching, which drains in that direction, which we would not be
Historically
affecting.
has always
Yeah,
done that.
yeah.
Okay. Let's see. I know we don't review, and just so the audience understands, under state law, we're not allowed to review any of the accessory dwelling unit. But David, given the extent of landscaping, retaining walls, et cetera, when this comes back to us again, could we get a definitive answer as to how far our review goes? The last understanding I had is we can go up to the wall of the ADU in terms of landscaping and hard surface. So if you could confirm that, please. Let's see, the other thing I had, you're proposing a new staircase here, and the gate is going to be at the top, not down at the bottom, correct?
Yes.
So there's no gate down here.
Correct.
And do we have what does that look like? Does it following the grade? Are we going to
Yeah.
see anything?
Yes.
Do you have a picture?
It's, currently it's roughly a 4-foot-high wall. Although it travels up the driveway. So here it is right here. That's what's existing right there.
Okay, and so
we're cutting in.
Okay.
And our stairways, it's going to start at surface here and go up to there.
So are we going to see a continuation of the stone on that side?
And there is an elevation. So there it is.
Right here?
Yeah.
Okay. So we're going to, we're going to see a continuation of that whole stone
Yep. surface
and the railing, and then it goes up and there's a gate.
Yep.
Which doesn't quite show on that sketch, I guess, or if it's there, I can't see it. Okay. The geo walls are here and here,
Yes.
okay? And you haven't determined with your engineers yet whether that's the final fix or not? You're still working on that?
Well, we're, no, this is, we think it's working well,
Okay.
and yeah, it's, but, you know, we're at the subject of the approval of the board, so.
Okay. And then you have some green shaded area there that indicates that's new landscaping area.
Mm-hmm.
I'm assuming you're going to have new landscaping in here?
Yes, it's all landscaping, yes.
Okay, so we don't have a landscape plan yet?
No.
Okay, so that's coming?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And then the plate height, I want to understand what's going on with, you had it.
Sections or elevations?
You had, yeah, okay, I guess I can go from here. So a couple of things. The roof pitch is changing slightly based
Yeah.
on what I see here?
It's currently 5 and 12, and we're
Okay.
going to 4.5 and 12.
4.5 and 12, so that drops down a little bit.
Yeah.
And the current plate height of the current residence is?
8 foot.
8 feet, and you're pushing that to 10
Yes,
for that whole, the whole second floor, not just a certain portion?
right, it's the whole thing.
Okay. And then the plate height for this little entry tower has gone to 13 feet 6 inches.
Yes.
Okay. Roof pitch, that one. You have a window, where did I see it? On the west elevation. That window is where?
It's in the master bath.
Which is this one in front of the tub. Okay. All right. Okay. I think the other ones I have for comments. Okay, I think those answers my first set of questions. Anyone else with questions? Okay, let's
Just mention one thing, very
Yes.
briefly. Currently, there's 2 large stone pine trees right here, which provide significant screening between the 2 houses, and we're not touching those. I mean, we can study this further in terms of providing privacy, but we're not going to do any better than these because they're 30 foot high and have canopies probably 25, 30 foot wide.
Okay. All right. Comments. I'm gonna just set some background here. I think 2 of us were here when we reviewed this house. And that was an extensive review process. We had many neighbors here, some of which are here tonight, to review this project. They hired an attorney. There was a lot of effort to make this house work with all the other houses, and a lot of the folks that came were in these houses up above us. And so I'm hoping as we go through this process, we can continue that aspect of resolving approval of a design that's going to be compatible with the neighborhood. So I'm going to urge board members as we go through and talk about this, and at the point we have to make findings for neighborhood compatibility, is to be very definitive about the things that you see and make sure that that goes in any motion that we make. Because there are a lot of pieces in this. One of the things I was checking is that it appears the way this has been drawn, there's a 12-foot clearance between the face of this house and this stone wall. So my question, I think you answered it, but let me double check. The stone that's there now is right here, correct?
It's right. We're not encroaching any further onto the driveway.
Okay, so that stone wall is exactly where
Yes.
your staircase is going to start and go backwards. Okay. All right. Anyone else have comments, and I'll come back to me? One thing I think that I would like to see as we move forward is a study section between this house and there, showing those pines, so we can kind of visualize what the privacy issues may or may not be.
Sure.
Just so we understand where the windows here are versus where they are here.
If I could just mention that we did include.
I know you have photographs.
Yeah, but there's also
section.
That's why I included this additional east elevation, because I took the architect's drawings and
put 'em
showed
there?
the relationship between
So
the houses.
if you could take
yeah.
this same thing and show where those pines are, that would be most helpful, so we can understand what windows might be affected. This board does not have purview over individual views from individual windows. City attorney has advised us that that's not something that we can make definitive measures on, but the board does work to an effort to eliminate as much as we can any window-to-window privacy issues between two properties. So that's why I'm asking for the information. From a code standpoint, and I'll look to you, Mr. Green, as the architect, and to staff to answer the question the neighbor had about the volume of water in the pool and how that's dealt with under the seismic code, so they can have an understanding of how that works once that pool is in. One of the questions I have under the code, you're required to have a child-proof barrier around the pool. Have you worked that out yet? Do you know what you're doing?
Well, not in detail, no.
Okay. So when you come back, that'll need to be defined so that we can look at it, what that may look about. The other thing that I'm always careful to look at on Riviera homes is the amount of deck area exposed to the city. And I was up this morning on Farillo Road. I was up on APS this morning, reminding myself what this little section of the street looks like, particularly down from Farillo Road. And this house currently has a very dominant exposure to the city, to Farillo Road, and to the roads below that. So I'm not quite sold on the extent of all this exterior deck. And I realize that the applicant has a property that drops dramatically and that they're trying to develop livable outdoor flat areas, but I'm not convinced that everybody in the Riviera needs to have decks that run the length of the whole front of their exposure to the south. So I guess I'm not quite sold yet on the extent of the amount of decks that are shown on these drawings. I'm really going to want to see some detailed sections about how these lower retaining walls are going to work in light of, and that'll be co-joined with your proposed landscape plan, and I'll look to my two landscape colleagues on the board to determine if the proposed planting is going to be appropriate and actually do what it shows in this photograph. Because that's going to be fairly important. The other thing that I'm going to be looking at is lighting, both from the exterior, any landscape garden lighting, and of course I'm always concerned about the amount of lantern lighting, so to speak, that comes from these homes in the Riviera in terms of the nightscape that we see. I'm not convinced on this big window on the tub in the master bathroom. I know people like to have those, but I'm not sure that that's what we should be doing in a densified city as we continue to build out. And I guess I'm also not really convinced about the 10-foot plate height on that first level. You know, we see all kinds of projects that come into us. Everybody wants to get these 10-foot ceilings, 9-foot ceilings, and it just pushes the whole bulk of this house way up. And I know you did a photo montage here to show the impact, but it's not just these folks. We have to look at it from the city. And so, you know, we keep getting bigger and more mass on the Riviera with every time someone comes in and basically buys a teardown. And I realize that, oh, you're remodeling, but this essentially is acting like a teardown. And so we're getting bigger, bulkier homes on the Riviera, and I'm not sure that's where this city ought to be at the moment. So I guess I'm not sold on the 10-foot plate height. 13 is a given. That's where it is. You know, we've seen some project come to us where perhaps the living area is the 10-foot plate height because you get it's a bigger room. It needs the proportions within the space, but we get some of the other rooms drop down, and that might be a solution to this bulkiness that tends to occur when we start adopting these blanket plate heights. And that might also help this element here too. I think the scale is certainly grand. Perhaps it's also needs to be restudied and lowered. So I guess I'm not there yet on that. So those are going to be some of my concerns as this project moves forward. And I'll certainly want to see what staff is going to say about the hedge. That will make a difference in the nature. You know, part of the challenge of the Riviera is we've got a whole lot of hedges all over the Riviera. Some of them have been allowed to grow way beyond the 8, 10, 12 foot that we see elsewhere in the flatter parts of our city. So I'm going to be interested to see what staff says in terms of the hedge, and then certainly what my colleagues will say as that moves forward. You know, right now that may be one of the areas where it's perfectly adequate to leave it at the height that it is today. But we probably need to make a concerted effort that we've taken a careful look at it. I think those are my first impressions, having seen the drawings tonight. And just so everyone understands, this board does not look at these drawings until they show up on this table. So the first time I saw these drawings was 35 minutes ago, whenever it was. So we're still having a way to look at this. But those are my comments. Other comments?
I'll make a comment.
Yes.
Overall, I think that the architecture fits in appropriately with the context of the area up on the APS. My question regarding the amount of cut or fill for the site kind of came from your site section here. Just looking at it, it looked to me like a lot of the walls are coming out of the existing grade. And so I don't know if there's any way to maybe bring some of that down a little bit. From looking at that cross section, I envisioned something that's going to breathe like really massive out of the existing site. So, but I understand you're dealing with a steep site. So that was just kind of my first concern with what I was looking at. But overall, I think it's a pretty neat solution to the site. And so I don't know if there's any way of minimizing the amount of walls involved with it, but that was something that I would study with. Because I know there's a lot of expensive building walls on a site like that. I don't know if maybe integrate some sloping planters into it or any other areas. And I can agree with Fred that sometimes there's you're proposing a lot of flat area out in front of this pool area. So I'd like to see the landscape plan on what the purpose of that and how it fits into the rest of the site. So, but overall, I'm in support of the overall direction of it. So.
Comments?
I'm in favor of it as well. I think that the project, basically, it's compatible with desirable architectural qualities and characteristics which are distinctive of Santa Barbara. I agree with Chair Sweeney that if the plate heights could be brought down, at least in some portions of the design, that would be helpful. And when you do the landscape plan, to think about privacy issues for your neighbors. And working with the owners, I hope that they can work with the neighbors as far as the easement and the driveway. I think that's important that they come to a nice understanding about that.
Okay, other comments?
I just did what Jan and Robert said.
Okay, thank you. One thing just to clearly understand, this board does not have purview over agreements with easements between two property owners. That's not something that we're allowed to deal with, but we, as Jan pointed out, we would encourage the property owners to resolve that. Our job here is to look at the aesthetics, the size, the scale, the bulk of these proposed projects, how they fit into the fabric of the neighborhood, the streetscape, and the rest of the city. So that's our primary focus. Legal issues between property owners are not something that we can comment on or have a decision-making process on. Okay, with that, if there's no further comments, the chair would look for a motion so that we can give direction to the applicant when they return, once they've had staff review, so that I assume they'll be requesting project design approval.
All right, I will make a motion that we appreciate the current design that the applicant has shown us, that when you return to us, the full board, we'd like you to have HUD study for your stormwater and drainage plan with Creeks or whoever it is you're reviewing with, that the shared parking lot and drive needs to meet NPI guidelines, that you need to figure out who's going to review your structural for the new wall along APS. Provide us a landscape plan that shows how you might screen the extensive decking that you have and patios that you have proposed in front of the residence. Consider resetting the 10-foot plate height on the top floor, maybe switch it to the bottom, or reduce the bulk or the plate height altogether. We would like you to bring back a section at the southwest corner of the property showing the existing stone pines. Check into the 5-foot self-closing barrier fence around the pool. And please study the possible lowering of the square footage of the deck material, the deck square footage. We'd also like you to show your lighting and sections at the retaining wall. Wait, do we have sections? Do we need more sections? Did you request another section?
I just wanted to make sure we understood the privacy issues between here and there. It could be accomplished on one of the sections.
Okay, and the hedge, let's see, was David going to follow up on the hedge designation, or was...
That'll be a staff action.
Okay. I believe that's my motion. Is there any added language, Mr.
Thank you.
Chair?
I would only suggest, and maybe to Kathleen, where Lisa was describing the issues on the lower side of the home, that's the southerly south elevation. Okay, that's the motion. Is there a second to that motion?
Second.
Before we take a vote, just a couple of comments. One of the things, Kurt, that you might fall back on is Julia Morgan did 3 houses this size below the main Casa Grande at Hearst Castle. Okay, and the middle house is very much in the flavor of the architecture you're proposing, which I think the board has indicated they appreciate. But I think the middle house that she did, she lowered the 2 wings on each side, and then the main living, there's a main living area in the center. And that pops up, and that might be a way to approach how you solve the 10-foot plate height business. Take a look at it. It's a really nice proportion. I'm sure you have a Julia Morgan book at home.
Yeah, check it out.
Check it out. I think that could be a way to deal with the mass of that facade. Okay, any other comments to the motion on the floor? Okay, if not, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? So carried. Okay, we'll see you back here. Okay, thank you.
Thanks.
Okay, is there any other business before today's hearing? If not, the chair will adjourn the Monday, December 29th, 2018 Single Family Design Board.